After 5 o'clock, and now it is back to our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should business delve into the gender debate? Now, Halifax has been accused of alienating its customers after its social media posts on gender pronouns. The bank recently announced that it would be allowing employees to present their preferred gender pronoun on name badges. And it told critical customers that if they didn't like it, they could simply close their accounts. So is it a step too far? And should businesses just stay out of this kind of debate altogether? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by UKIP leader Neil Hamilton, also broadcaster Narinder Kaur. Now I'm going to start with you, Narinder, because you put out a tweet today earlier, and this is what it said. Good God, are folk really leaving Halifax just because of a name badge that says that they or him or whatever? How pathetic. Reminds me when they wouldn't get served by someone of colour back in the day. Same old idiots.
Oh, my God, it's a badge. And it just says a pronoun. You can choose whatever you want. You don't have to choose anything. And wow, 150 customers left. I take my hat off to Halifax and I'm a customer of theirs and I will stay with them and I think they've done a great job. And this question about should businesses get involved? Well, of course they should, because we're a community. They're part of the world and we go there and you know, they deal with our finances and they're not doing a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's also, I can't believe you said critical people. I'd say people who are really, have they got nothing else better to do? Well, it's just a pronoun. Why is such a fuss?
I find it interesting that you also compare it with people of colour, because I just think that is a very, very, very difficult comparison. I mean, there's a load of...
I don't think it's difficult. I remember when someone wouldn't get served by that.
So when I'm talking about that is so, for me, as a person of colour, reading that, I'm thinking, what, a pronoun? That's so different to... This is a different extreme completely. No, but I get bored of hearing comparisons of people...
have left.
How can you compare that to racism?
Because back in the day, they wouldn't get served by someone of colour. And now they're saying, well, we're going to leave the bank because she, he, they, and this is too much for me.
But do you take what Gary said, Alan said, that actually, Gary said this, sorry, that it's the beginning and there's a tip of a sort of iceberg, like a gateway.
Well, just be normal. Just to normalise more inclusivity. What's wrong with being inclusive?
Neil.
Well, call me old-fashioned, but I think the business of business is business, not politics. And they should concentrate on making profits for their shareholders and run a successful business in the interest of its customers and of the people who work for them. What we've got here is a few millennial snowflakes in charge of their social media accounts who want to impose their woke ideology on the rest of us. So we've got an infinitesimally small minority that wants to impose its view of the world on the majority. It'd be interesting to know what the views of shareholders in Halifax or of the customers of Halifax. But they're not interested in the customers because the customers can sling their hook if they don't agree with it.
Yes, and I agree with Halifax saying that because we're an inclusive society, Neil.
Well, it's not very inclusive to tell people to clear off.
A minority, majority it is, because they're saying, look, and you're saying these woke millennials, they will become they're the future generation.
God help us.
We have to include people.
God help us.
What is wrong? Why is everyone so fenced in with what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed?
OK, well, let me put this to you then, because when I read some of these pronouns, I heard you laughing. All right, so out of the 78 gender pronouns, let me read you some of these, because if somebody told me to call them that, I'd look and say it doesn't even make sense. On the screen there, and if you're listening on radio, I'll read some out. Herself, herself, which is obviously one, their self, theirs, the self, whose self, is, his, gers, viz, the, xi, I don't even know how it's X and E, that's a word, is it? Exem is a
Are they really all these pronouns?
That's 78. Well, exactly. Does it matter? No, it does. Because
why are you so bothered?
Listen, I went to a restaurant, right, a little while ago, and I was talking to someone, and I said, oh, yeah, he served me over there, and he went, excuse me, but it's they. And I went, well, are there two of you? It doesn't even make...
No, well, I would just say, I'm sorry. I just am sorry, they.
But it doesn't make...
I want to learn. Why not learn?
But it doesn't make grammatic sense. You're asking me to break grammar to go along with something that doesn't make sense. I'm now meant to call you plural when you are they, when you're one person, which is not they. Why should I do that?
Because they don't identify with he or she. It's not that complicated.
It doesn't make sense.
It will make sense. We should educate ourselves to include more people.
Well, can you call me Queen then? Because I've decided that I'm now
Queen. Nana. You can
HRH Nana, please. I mean, it's nonsense. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, what we're seeing here is really the abolition of sex, isn't it? And why aren't we all it? and that would solve the problem.
Well, there is one that is it, actually, which I thought was an insult, actually.
Yeah, but I'll go back to the point I made a moment ago. You know, this debate actually personally affects an infinitesimally small minority, and it's the cheerleaders for that infinitesimally politically motivated minority who want to impose their views on the rest of the world.
And it's always minorities need help. They need support, and they should be getting backed up.
I'm a minority. I need support.
You're not.
I'm a minority. I need support.
Yes,
so are you.
You should see the vile abuse that's heaped on me on Twitter.
I mean, look.
But you're the leader of UKIP party, was essentially racist, so you would get
No,
abuse.
it's certainly not racist.
That's not fair.
I'd say it is.
That's not fair. I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
I think it's a great mistake when people come on television to demonstrate their own ignorance. And that, I'm afraid to say, is what you've just done.
Sorry, let him reply. Let him respond to you.
We're not a racist party. In fact, we have people of all races who are in UKIP or have been in UKIP over the years. We believe in Britain as a sovereign independent nation. That's why UKIP is in existence at all. It's nothing to do with racism.
I'd say it is underlyingly.
No, but he's just told you what it is. He's just told you what it is.
But I'd say underlyingly it is. I understand
that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
No, I'd say there's...
Well, I personally, I'm going with Neil on this. I know there's a lot of people that everybody puts the label racist on something to make it an easier...
Oh, UKIP definitely is. I mean, goodness.
Well, listen...
Just because you say it is doesn't make it.
Your Twitter timeline is... I went down it, and I'd say there's... I would read that as a woman of colour and say there's racism.
But I read it as a woman of colour and I don't see that. So there's a different view here. So to be fair, I think that the people who believe in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom, and I don't equate that necessarily with racism.
Oh,
But there are racist people, and I don't think you can say that that whole party is racist because some racist people affiliate themselves.
I'd say their directors do come down. There is a lot.
I think there's an extreme left wing as well who would pretend to be non-racist who actually are the racists. I think there's an extreme on both sides as well.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
like
fair.
The anti-Semitism that was in the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn.
Some people would say that as well. So let's get back to our gender pronouns, though, because actually what Gary touched on was something that's quite important, really, that it does appear to be a gateway of a forcing of us all to go along with a narrative that I haven't agreed to it. I don't see why I should go along with it. And then Halifax saying to their customers, well, if you don't like it, just do one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
For them, I take my hat off. No one's forcing you. Why do you feel so forced? There's no force. It's just about learning.
It is
I feel there's a lot of hate towards this. Why not have a little more acceptance towards how they want to be described? It's just, like you said, it's a small minority. Why are you so insecure about a small minority?
Because these days there's a kind of groupthink which imposes its ideology upon the majority, and people feel inhibited. People feel inhibited expressing their own opinions, which are contrary to that.
I don't think they feel inhibited. I think it's freedom of speech.
Well, I'm afraid you're out of touch with the reality of what's going on in business in this country, where people can lose their jobs, have their careers destroyed.
Right, exactly.
And I know some of them.
They should lose their jobs if they're being hateful.
Because they've said the wrong thing.
They just disagree. They disagree.
No, they shouldn't lose their jobs if they disagree.
Yeah, but you see, that's the point that Gary made, that with these sort of ideologies, if you don't go along with it, then you could find yourself in a position where you lose your job. And look at people like Kathleen Stott, who dared to talk about women.
Exactly.
Look what happened to her. She had to leave her post as a lecturer, a very valuable member of staff, because they dared to mention something that ventured into the trans debate. Rosie Duffield was afraid to go to one of her conferences at the Labour Party because she dared to comment on women having a cervix. I mean, this is where we're going with it, and that is the worry.
But I think that's educational, and I think they should be called up, and people should be made to be accountable. How can we go in the world where there's so much differences?
Accountable for what? Sorry.
But then there are
she said women have a cervix.
No, but
what's wrong with that? Why? See, this is what we're talking about.
There's a lot of context around that.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that? No. That was
nothing wrong with just that.
J.K. Rowling said women menstruate. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Because she was in the context of it all. She was being hateful towards.
She wasn't being hateful.
No, she wasn't. She even said that she welcomes all people and has nothing against them. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about a narrative that actually breeds this weird sort of energy that brings on this whole.
How dare you? Insecure about it.
They're not insecure.
I feel there is an insecurity. Let people be.
But that's exactly right. They should let people be, but these people won't let you be, and that's the problem.
No, they're just fighting their corner. They're not letting you be. They're fighting the corner.
What we're doing is fighting intolerance, actually. When the gay rights movement started, it was a plea for tolerance. Now, Stonewall have put that entirely on its head, and what they're trying to do is impose their views upon everybody else and to stop other people expressing their opinions. So that's intolerance. Now Stonewall's become an intolerant organisation, not a tolerant organisation.
Well, listen, this show's nothing without you and your views, so let's welcome our great British voice, their opportunity to be on the show, tell us what they really think about the topics that we're discussing. Deborah Ridley, where should we go to, Deborah? Should we go to Dorset?
Yeah, great.
Dorset's a lovely, lovely place. Let's have a chat with Deborah in Dorset. Deborah, the two Ds, Debbie. Debbie, is it OK to call you Debbie? Debbie, what do you think today? Yeah. We've been talking about this debate. Should businesses be involved in this? What's your view on it?
OK. Afternoon, Nana. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I actually think that as a customer, to go into a bank, I just want to be served by whoever it might be that serves me. So I think it's very difficult, isn't it, for people just to be walk into a bank and just to be served. And I think I really agree with Neil and Gary in terms of what they've said, because it's about businesses. It shouldn't be about anybody's gender. When I go into a bank, I'm not really interested in anyone's gender. OK, we have a choice to have, to be identified whatever we want. But I think as a business, I think it's really going down the wrong road.
Interesting, Deborah. So a badge with a gender pronoun and Halifax saying to their staff, well, if you don't like it, you can clear off. Do you think that that's acceptable?
No, definitely not. No. I think, obviously, I think customers sometimes taken a step too far. I think, obviously, if it was my bank, I probably wouldn't take my money out of the bank. But I would still, I just think, it's just silly. It is getting ridiculous, all of this gender, and I think you've touched on it. I think it is quite divisive.
Ridley, thank you so much. She's the first time as a great British voice, and she's been fabulous. Lovely to talk to you in Dorset.
Thank you.
Right, so today I'm asking, should businesses delve into gender debate? Lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Milo says, I think Halifax is a brilliant bank, and I'm surprised by its action. They probably think they're doing the right thing. They're not. But I won't hold it against them. It's like a lot of people who did the Black Square for Black Lives Matter. That turned out to be a scam. But I said that from the start, and I had a load of people who are white telling me, how could you do that? And I said, well, because that's what I think. I said it was a far-left Marxist extreme pressure group, and that's what it turned out to be, of course. Jim says, if I banked with Halifax, I'd close my account. Also, if I did bank with them and I saw someone called Gemma, who was a woman, yet declared herself as he, him, I would still address her as Miss. It's nonsense. There are two genders, male and female. Everything else is fairy tales. Louise says, Halifax are bang out of order. I'll be looking to move my mortgage ASAP.
Cost you.
Well, if you can get a better rate, good luck with that.